Travels and Traditions with Bert Wolf is a classic travel journal that reports on the history and culture of our world. Bert will visit a museum to see the great art. But the main story is about the $7 billion in art that's stolen each year. He'll get on a cruise ship to check out the history of onboard restaurants. But we'll also find out how they are used to make passengers feel more secure in the middle of the ocean. We'll see how the information Bert uncovers can improve our lives and our understanding of the world around us.
This program is about how restaurants get made. And surprisingly, most of the elements that make our restaurants have been around for over 200 years. Street floor access, receptionists,
follow me on in, please. Thank you.
side-by-side tables, wait staff, kitchens in the back, and a written invoice. Almost everything that makes up the modern restaurant was developed in Paris during a 55-year period between 1765 and 1820. All this stuff is over 200 years old. For centuries, there had been inns and taverns along the road where you could stop in and get something to eat or drink. And in Paris, there was something called the table d'hôte, which means the host table. Big room, giant communal table. Everybody ate the same food, drank the same wine, and paid the same bill. But you never knew who you were going to sit next to. It could be somebody quite charming or somebody who was quite revolting. And I mean revolting not just in the sense that they want to kill the king, and women were not allowed. There were some people who wanted to eat out, but in a more controlled environment. And they began saying that eating in a table d'hôte was unhealthy, and that if you wanted to have a good and safe meal, you should eat in something you called a restaurant. The word restaurant was used to describe a broth made with chicken or beef and served in a clean and hygienic environment. Eventually, the shops where the soup was being served took the name of the soup and became known as a restaurant. Shortly after the French Revolution of 1789, in an area of Paris known as the Palais Royal, a group of restaurants opened and offered a bigger selection of foods. You could eat at your own table with your own pals. The restaurant was evolving from a place associated with good health to a place associated with good times, and women were always welcome. Within 20 years, Paris was packed with restaurants that were almost precisely what we see today. And these days, we see them throughout the world. You see them in Hong Kong. You see them in Japan. You see them in Italy. And you see them in Chicago, where we are today. And in terms of making a living, this is not an easy business.
I have to tell you, a restaurant is a very tricky investment. More than half of them go under within the first 6 months. If I were your accountant, I'd have to strongly advise you against it.
You would, huh? Yeah. Well, you're not my accountant.
No, I mean, if I were your accountant...
I told you. I took you out here...
No, I'm just saying that it's a very, very tricky business. And...
This program is about how a restaurant is developed from the original idea to opening night. The foods, the drinks, the interior design, the training of the staff, all of it. But it's also about how restaurants change from generation to generation within the same family. Starting in the early 1980s, I began reporting for a major television news network. Now, these were the good old days before fake news. You were forced to go out and actually report about something that was happening. One of my first reports was about a guy named Rich Melman. Rich had spent about 10 years building a restaurant company in Chicago called Let Us Entertain You. That's Lettuce, and Rich was the head lettuce. His first restaurant opened in 1971. It was a hip burger joint geared to young singles with rock music and good food. It was designed to appeal to various tastes by offering vegetarian and microbiotic foods alongside hamburgers, overstuffed sandwiches, milkshakes, and Chicago's first salad bar. It was called R.J. Grunt's and became one of the hottest restaurants in Chicago. Since then, Rich and his Let Us Entertain You partners have opened almost 300 restaurants representing over 70 different concepts. These days, Rich points out that he doesn't always have a good sense of what the younger customer wants, but he's lucky to have 3 children and a wife who are kind enough to let him know what's going on now.